Okay, so we're starting tonight a new sugya, the new Gemara, Daf Test, new Mishnah. The quick summary: we saw Orla Arba'asa. It's supposed to the night of the 14th. Everyone says Or means night. That you check for chametz. We ascertain that it's all a din d'Rabbanan, right? It's a din d'Rabbanan because be'emes ba'yiro ba'yimatzu would only be if it's yours. Bittul takes care of that. Bittul, the act of bittul takes care of that. Bittul works. That was machloekes Rashi and Tosfos. Does it work? Als tashpisu, als hefker. But bottom line is that it's din d'Rabbanan. Betika is all it's din d'Rabbanan in order to remove your chametz because bittul is enough. Midaraisa bittul is enough. Okay, now you check your house, and very interesting Gemara tonight because it's kind of touches upon the whole din of roiv and chazakis and it's like really a shas sugya that appears here in Pesachim. It's also in Ksubis and in Chulin, very similar, all in Daf Tes and Yud, both Mesechtas as well. It's very, very, very interesting. Good evening, young man. So now, hey, to me, you're a young man compared to me. Now, says the Mishnah, Ein chayshishin shemagiru chulda. Let's say you go ahead, you check your house, you check the room, and now you leave. So you're not chayish that a chulda is not a weasel or some type of rodent will come mibayis labayis and makom l'makom. Once something is muchzik that you check. Yeah, you checked here. I checked. You're not worried that after you check, you go in the other room, well, something's going to bring something else in and go ahead and moon your chazaka of what of beduka that it's bothered. You're not worried about that. You're not chayish for what for a chulda, not from house to house, not from room to room, because if so, then I feel chutz l'chatzer. Chatzer here means not the chutzer of Erevin. It means the houses that are in a chutzer. No, it is it's not the chutzer in front of the houses. It means the houses that are there. In the Dava Seif. In other words, there never will be an end in sight. Rashi says, "In choishin k'shebodek zav yezu ubal livdek zu." You went and checked one corner. Now you come to check another corner. Sheven mitoich shebal livdek zu kiruchul the chametz l'makam abodek. A chulda will go ahead and carry chametz to basically just checked. Because then you'd have to go back and forth. There'd be in the other side. There wouldn't be an end, right? So once you check, you check. Once you check, you check.
I'm asking, what's said yesterday when the wall fell, the rubble was at the floor. So we're cautious that the dog's going to come and it's going to be able to take the food. It's going to pull the food up less than three tefachim. Yesterday,
I think just if you can get to it, that's.
I think shot was that the dog's going to bring the chametz.
I didn't learn like that at all. No, I learned the fact that a dog could get to it means it's not removed. Removed means if you have all the piles on top of it, you can't get to it. The dog can get. No, I think the fact that Yankel the dog can get to it shows us why it's not considered mavur. It's not considered out of the world.
That was the question. How come they were worried about it?
Yeah, that's where I learned. Okay, so now, well, I hope so. So the Shem Cain says Rashi Shabbos lochush lekach. You're going to worry about that. Harigama mechutz lechatzer, or from one chutz to the other. Yeshlei mekach. Ani bedakti koydem chaverai. Well, I checked my whole house before. And then after I checked, so he's going to bring from my friend's chutz into my house. In other words, initially the Gemara says you're not worried what if you go from room to room. I check one corner and then you're going to go to the other corner that a chulda is going to come in, because if that's the case, even if your whole house is finished, then you have to worry that what if you chayish for that, you have to worry some from other chutzes is going to come in. Ain't the dove itself. In other words, there never will be an end to your checking.
You at the same time in the whole house.
What? But I'm saying, but you always have to worry. If you let's say staying the whole house is bothering iron. In other words, if I'm worried about from one part of the house to another part of the house, even if the house is checked, you'd still have to worry. Why? Because what about the guy in the next house who didn't check? And then his stuff will come into mine. If you know, once you have to be suspicious, you're going to be suspicious. That's the point the Mishnah is saying, that there is a double saif. The saif is you do what you got to do. You check. I'm not chayish for the chulda going ahead. Okay, says the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. Taima, the reason you're not chayish, why? The loy chazinon, the shakel. You didn't see a chulda come and take anything. Ha chazinon the shakel, then chashinon uboy bedika. Right? Now let's say you do check, and all of a sudden you see a mouse, and the mouse has gotten his mouth, it's got chametz. right? So then you would have to recheck the house, correct? Because the Mishnah says only if you don't see, but if you mashma, your inferences if you do see, you would have to check. The Gemara of Amai, neimach lase. Let's say it ate it, but obviously it's taking you what it ate it. Miloi tanan. Do we not learn the following? This is the second last Mishnah in Masechta Oiles. Maduras akum, the rooms of an akum, tameim. Now there's a halacha where chayish for tumah b'chutz laaretz. We had this. They were guys that the chacham guys on Eretz Amen tumah. They don't demarcate their graves. They don't demarcate their graves, so you don't know where exactly someone's buried. As a result, it could be bones and anything. So the chacham were guys on Eretz Ha'amim, that's Tameh. The Gush of Eretz Ha'amim, Gemara speaks about, is Tameh. So here we're speaking in Eretz Yisrael, but they were goyim on the houses of goyim in Eretz Yisrael that lived there, Tumah, because they would bury Nephalim, they would bury miscarried children in the walls and in the floors. So they were goyim that the Maduras of the house of a goy is Tameh, because of that reason. Because again, you have to chayish for a nephil.
Can I walk into a goyish house?
Well, Rashi brings that a kohen maybe could. Okay, so Taisa says, I'm going to read the kahana mutarim likanes from Beis Chavim. Right, we'll see. Also see. We'll see in a second. Milay Tanam Maduras Akum Tameim the Kama Yisha B'Mada V'Yimad Tzarch B'Dika. How long does the guy have to live in there that you'd have to do a B'Dika for a dead baby? Abayim Yoim. That the 40 days is time it takes for a child to be what conceived, put together, and what and be mappal and miscarried. And even though this guy doesn't have a wife, he chayish for what from his nose, bring a woman in a night, but 40 days you'll go ahead what and be chayish. However, there's an addendum. Any place where a weasel or a pig are able to go, ain't sarch bedika. Then in that case, you're not going to be a bedika. Why? Because they're going to eat up. They're going to eat her up. So Fred Marakasha. What?
What if she was pregnant before she came to the house?
They were not chayish so much. They weren't chayish. They weren't. They weren't. This is Gezerah. This is Gezerah. They weren't guys. They weren't guys on that. They weren't guys. In other words, they limited. You're right. You're asking good. They said the Gezerah didn't extend the Gezerah that much. They only did it for 40 days. They weren't chayish for that. So now but if in other words, if we can be toila that something ate up the nafel, then the house is okay. So the same thing over here. Let's be toilet good. You saw the mouse take away the chametz, but just like the chulda ate the miscarried child, so too what the rat or the mouse ate the chametz. Amr Rabbi like kasha. There's a difference. Seems like meat is they don't leave over, but bread they leave over, right? The basa way mishaira, basa they don't leave over. Belechem mishaira, but belechem in fact, they do leave over. That would be the difference. Samara Amarava. 1 second. I'm not buying this. Hi, Mai. Bishlei Machasam over there by the goy. Ema Have. Maybe there was a dead baby there. Ema Loi Have. Maybe there wasn't. It's a suffix. Vim Tim Saloima Have. And if you're going to say there was, Ema Chwase, I'll say maybe they ate it. So in other words, the whole thing is a suffix, and even if on that suffix that there would, we'll say it ate. So therefore, it's tahar. Aval hacha devadei chazin b'shakol over here where you certainly saw it take. There's no suffix over here. The mouse had the bread. Mi yema da'achlase, right? How do you know you ate it? That's a suffix, right? It's a suffix whether you did or not. So have a suffix uvadei, then suffix might see me devadei. You have a suffix whether ate it or not. You have vadai, there was chametz in the house. Suffix vadai ain't suffix might seem vadai. Okay, before we get into the sugya, there's a very interesting halacha that we should be aware of, and many of us are. When you have a suffix tuma, there's a chilik between b'shus harabim and b'shus hayachid. We learn out from Saita, that suffix tuma b'shus hayachid, sveika is tamei. That when's the whole question of a saita, whether she's tamei, meaning whether she had illicit relations or not, that would be metamaha. The Torah calls it tameya. Transpires where in private property in rishus hayachid. So suffik tuma b'rishus hayachid sveikay tamei. The saita till she drinks from the water, the meimarim is not permitted to her husband. She's in a state of Suffolk Tuma. She's not permitted to her husband. In that state, she's not permitted, right? So the whole din of Suffolk Tuma, Rishus HaYachid Sveiket Tami. So over here, it's a Suffolk Tuma, Rishus HaYachid, right? So why over here do we say that why it's Tahar? Let's see Tosfos over here.
Because she's asked to both. Until you establish it.
The Torah calls it Tameya.
Because that's not.
It's not Tuma like oilish, like Tuma. Tuma means that she's. Tuma means she's not committed to her husband. Now, Vim Tim Saloi Mahavi Im Echati Im Taima. But Maduras Levikichavim Rishus HaYachid Hein. Maduras Levikichavim, guys, is in fact is Rishus HaYachid. V'Tanam Masechta Tyrus. Kol Mokum She'ata Yochel Laharbei Sveikos Usvek Sveikos B'Shus HaYachid Tamei. So therefore, L'Chayra, why is it tar? It should be Tamei. V'Yesh Loimar the Loidami Hach Sveikel L'Shas Svike. That this suffix is different than others. The Amai Istel Nema Sheiba Nefel the Dami L'Suffix Bia. You're going to say that what that Nefel is compared to a suffix Bia. Inami. In other words, the fact that it's more or less likely that there's a nafel there than the woman had illicit relations. A site is what? It's raglayim ledava. A man warned his wife. The wife was warned about a specific man. She stayed behind closed doors for the time that it's possible to do the act, correct? Or there's a nafel in the house. Which one is more mistaba that it took place? Obviously the woman, correct? So they will say sveika is tamei. Mashenkin over here, it's a bit remote. It's a bit remote. You know, it's not dealing like with the nuns. They say the nuns they wear a big habit to cover up the fact that they're pregnant, and then they would. You never do that. You ever do that? You never see nuns, guys. You never saw nuns. We grew up. They used to walk around with the white things on their heads, and no, but they now I think they just wear something on their head. They don't have the whole outfit. What? They wear the tichel, but no, they had the tichel. They had a whole black thing, right?
Some of them even flew.
No,
I'll just give you a hint. It's not Dr. Ben. It's not Dr. Ben. Sally Field. Yeah, flying nun. Remember that hat? Stupid shit. Okay. Anyway, so l'chala pachas, guys. Okay. So therefore it's a remote suffix over here, and therefore it's tahar. Inami ema achalte odif mishas feikos. The suffix haradol have v'karv levadai. The suffix whether it ate it up is more mistaba that it did eat it up. In other words, the suffix whether it ate it did not. If you give an animal food. It's suffix ate or not ate. Trust me, the animals they eat. So in other words, it's more vadai the animal ate than the case by the saita. So therefore, it's not so totally similar. So we make a chilik between saita emad and a nefel. Anyway, so here you have again one more time. Ain't suffix might seem de vadai. What's the suffix over here? What again? What's that suffix over here? The suffix is whether there was a nefel or not. And Tim Sulaima vadai. Over here, that's over there was a suffix. Over here, we have two. We have a vadai, there was chametz, suffix whether it ate up or not. Over there was both a suffix. There's a suffix whether it ate, suffix whether it was an apple in the first place. Over here, vadai, you had it, so we have a rule. Vadai is suffix, ain't suffix, might seem they vadai, and therefore it's tame, the house needs bedika, because you know vadai there was chametz in the house. So Marava, hi, my. Maybe there was an afel, maybe it wasn't an afel. Then Tim Salim Havi, you can say there was an afel. I'll say it was eaten up by what? By the chulda. Aval hacha the vade the chazin the shakel. Over here, where vade you saw a rodent. Go ahead. Chametz. Me yemi dachlase. Have a suffix with vade and suffix mitzvim de vade. Say the Gemara. Ain't suffix mitzvim de vade. Aiva hatanya. Chava. We had this Gemara earlier. Chava shemes. Guy dies. Now he's a chava means he is muchzik that he separates shumas and maisa as soon as possible. He's a chava. He goes ahead and when Chumas and Maisa, he is separating as soon as possible. And he leaves a megura, a soiler full of Paris. Question: he's dead. Did he take off Chumas and Maisa before he died or not? And even if they were that day, Bnei Yomon made Ruach HaKri, they were Gemar Melacha to finish. In other words, he didn't even have time. He didn't have time. The Gemar Melacha was that day. So there's a svar to say he didn't have time to take it off. Nonetheless, Harehem B'chesas B'tukanim, the Kri, the pile of all his peiros are in the category of, in Yiddish we say, upgeshet, was tithe. If Shumas Maisa was taken off, you can eat it. You can eat it. This is a chava. Now, the hahacha, the vadai tfili, vadai, this was tevel. Hani peri. Usofik miusarim. We left it was muchzik that for sure that day it was piled up. When it gets piled up, what happens? That's called the Gemar Malacha for what? To take off Shumas the Meisers. So right then and there was finished. But that vadai happened. Suffolk before he died, whether he took it off or not. So now we have a case of Suffolk and vadai. And what are we saying? The Suffolk overcomes the vadai. The vadai is it was tevel, and we're saying it's mitukin. We're saying what? It was up the shape. We're saying it was tied. So the Suffolk, whether he did or not, overrides the vadai that was tevel. Oh, that's a teretz. Says Gemara, the Suffolk musarin, the Suffolk loy musarin, because he's Suffolk that what, whether he took off meister or not, umetzim de vadai that was tevel. So Hossam, Baruch just said, vadai uvadai hu. The vadai me'asrin, vadai he took off meiser, kid Reb Chanina chuzoi, like Reb Chanina chuzoi. Dom Reb Chanina chuzoi, hazaka al chava, sheimoitzi mitachas yadrei dava she'ena mitukin. When he got the name chava for something. It's called a chava for something. This is his thing. He doesn't go ahead and ever allow tevel. So guaranteed, even though he's dead, as soon as there was Gemar Malacha, he went ahead and plied it. There's no question. So it's not a case of Suffolk whether he did or he didn't. He vadai did. So it's a case of vadai and vadai. Vadai it was tevel, and vadai it was upgeshet, and vadai he took it off. That's why it's called a chava. So it's not a tzushtel to the case of what? Of chametz vadai, where the rodent has the chametz, and it's a suffix whether he ate it or not. That is a suffix and a vadai. Over here it's a vadai and a vadai. Okay, that's one teretz. Now be aware there's loopholes in Trumas and Maisa. The chiyuv of Maisa, there's something called a chilas kevin, a chilas kfar. You could eat a chilas kfar. You're in the field, you're working. It's called a chilas aroy. You could eat a chilas aroy. Once you stop going back in, then you can't eat it anymore. But it's not mechuyev yet in to take off Trumas and Maisa till you have Gemar Malacha. The Gemar Malacha for dagon, for something that's grain, is called Miruach HaKri. When you go ahead and smooth down the pile, right? Even there's a loophole. It has to be ro pnei abayis. It has to be sort of front door. Or if you bring it in its mites, if you bring it in its bran, it didn't see the front door. Or if you shelled it and you brought it in the skylight, it didn't see the front door. And then it would not be mechuyev for, if you'd be able to feed it to your animals, it's not considered tevel. So you're saying over here, it's vadai tevel, not so fast. Not so fast. In other words, there's a loophole to avoid tevel. There's a loophole to avoid tevel. What's the loophole? Here we go. Viboy is saying, suffix for suffix who? It's a suffix. Right. What's the suffix? Whether he took off Trumas and Maisa. Says maybe initially it wasn't tevel. You said right for sure unequivocally it's tevel. No. Efsha, it's not tevel. Why? Kid Rabbi Shaya. Dom Rabbi Shaya. Ma'arimod mal tfuasa, a person can make a trick on his tfuah. Umachnisa b'moitz shela. Bring it in its shell and its bran. Kadesha te behimasle cheles. That is behemu could eat. Upetura min amaisa. And he bought it from Maisa. So this is not a case of what? Of suffix and vadai. It's either a case of vadai or a case of suffix. Or a case of suffix. So there's a loophole over here. So this is a good idea to know, guys. This idea about what? Roy Pnei Abayis, it shows up in Shas all the time. It shows up in Shas all the time. Okay? It's a long Rashi on this. Yeah.
He's a chava. You say he has a chazaka that he takes up.
That's the first teretz. That's the first teretz. We want to give a teretz to a kasha. Good? What's a kasha? You tell me suffering vadai. Oh, right. That's stuff. Vadai. I'll show you a case where it is mitzvah vadai. The answer is it's not a case of suffix vadai. I can create two ways of doing it, Mendy. Either by making a vadai or a suffix. I'm doing it to avoid a kasha. Okay, he's a chava. That's the first eretz, and even that I can still avoid it. No, that's what we're doing. We're saying there's another way out. We want to avoid a kasha. Good. It's not suffix vadai. It's vadai or suffix. So those are two possible ways to avoid it. The Gemara continues. Hi, Fred. The Gemara ain't suffix mitzvah vadai. Ain't suffix mitzvah vadai. But Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda, Maisa, Shefchase Shel Matzik Echad. There was a matzik. This guy was a strong-armed man. He was a very powerful Jew. Rashi says, little Rashi in the bottom, matzik inish alma, a very strong man, v'Yisrael have, meaning he was very connected. He was like not physically strong. He was a head honcho. But Rimoin, in the town of Rimoin, shitiloi nefel lebar, that she was mappel a nefel into a bar. Now the question is we have Shaila of Tumah V'Taira. If again we had earlier in the Masechta, 80 days or 40 days, 6 and 33, right? 7 and 33 for a boy, 14 and 66 for a girl. So you'd have to see what she miscarried to ascertain how much the days she's tamei. Good. So what happened? So she was mappel into a bar. Ubar koyin came along a koyin. The hitzitz boy, and the kohen went ahead and looked into the bar. Right? Why? What did he want to know? Im zachahu, im nekevahu. He wanted to know if it's a zachah or a nekeva. Now, why is that for a kohen looking in? Right? This was a ma'isa. Why is the kohen looking in? The kohen at all costs wants to avoid any tumah. Correct? So what is he looking in? So Rashi says, lay them zachah nekeva. The kohen karev. The kohen was a relative. Or maybe it was a bad bias there. And they sent him there to tell his mother mativoi what was the nature to ascertain the difference between the two. He didn't remember that he's muzarat on Rashi's niskasha. What's this kohen doing there? The kohen. There's no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to be there. He's looking in. You have a problem with dead. You have a problem with oil and mace. What is he doing there? Kahanim they stay away from the cemetery. So the Gemara is, this is a kasha for Maisa. So they're trying to explain why in the world he'd end up in this situation in the first place, right? Why is Bishlema Yisrael looks at one thing, but a Kayin who's muzer, who's warned not to be tamei, why is he doing this? So Rashi continues. And now he forgot. This guy is the kohen al asaras nefesh leitama. That a nefesh, that's the pasuk in the Torah. The hitzitz by bebar. V'nefel loira. He didn't see the nefel. V'tiaru mimal al alames. And they were matarim from mimal alames. He didn't see a nefel. He didn't see anything. So in other words, obviously the pit was what shallow enough that you would see what it was. He didn't see anything. And then he was tahar. Then he's tahar. So that was the ma'isa. So Maisa that they matbel nefel with bar, the kohen looked inside, himself in the kevahu, but Maisa lechachamim v'tiaruhu and the chachamim matar him. Why? Mifnei shechulda ubardlis mitchulim sham. A chulder and a bardlis are found there. A chulder is a rodent, is a weasel. A bardlis is a huge machlekes. Bardlis, I've seen mefarshim that are from one end of the spectrum to the other. There's a hyena, there is a polecat, there is a cheetah.
In the weasel family also.
It's got to be but it's in the cat family. But I can't imagine it's a large cat because over here we're speaking about a rather small space. I mean, in Baba Kama where it's brought in, it's a larger cat. And there, in fact, it's mashma, it's from the larger cat family because it's speaking about mu'adim and it's speaking about lions and kenzai. In the context over there, it's a larger animal. But over here, within the confines of a bar, where it's living in a crevice, it's hard to imagine any of those animals that I mentioned, the larger cats, living in a crevice. It's mashma, it's like some type of mustelid in the mustelid family, like weasels, sloths, minks. But Maish, what else?
So many badgers, but I think there's two types of bardalis. And when I learned this, I think that's what we came out with. There's the larger one, which is probably a hyena, and then there's the smaller ones, which could be anything that you're saying.
The larger one would be in Baba Kama. That would fit in the context over there.
The larger one sounds like it's as dangerous as a bear or a lion.
Yeah, so then it could be a tiger.
Right, something like that.
First Yisrael means tiger. I mean, I'm saying with context. But anyway, yeah, so
Question is, how many of them did he pick up on the side of the road with his roadkill?
I think he only picked up a raccoon or a deer. Yeah, deer was in Texas. Anyway, so it says that he was now a hahacha, guys. Again, this is a kasha, right? We're leading up to a kasha. Good. Was this woman vade mapel? Now, so the suffix geruha, and it's a suffix whether it was schlepped away or not. The suffix loy geruha. Hahi shaita, because he suffix umatzim de vadai. Vadai, there was a water nafel in this bar. Suffix when this guy looked in, whether it was schlepped away or not. Yeah, we say it's tahar. So again, we're ruining the rule. Your rule of ain't suffix umatzim de vadai l'chora is not true, because we're saying over here that the fact that he's still tahar the kohen, vadai had tumah there. We're being mitar him. It's only a suffix whether it was schlepped out or not. So l'chora ain't suffix umatzim de vadai is not true. Says Gemara, no. Loy temish etila nefel bar. Don't say she was mapel and nefel in the bar. El emish epilu kimin nefel bar. Vavi suffix usafik. In other words, the Gemara in Nida describes a nefel as it has to have like limbs sort of formed. It has to have a tsura of an embryo. Let's say it doesn't. It could be a blob of blood. It could be a ruach. It could be a bag of wind. In other words, there is a tzad that there wasn't a nefel there. So therefore, it's very good. The reason they were matire him, it wasn't a suffering and a vadai, there was tumah there. Ken Zayin, there was no tumah there at all. If it was mapel a ruach, it was mapel something that wasn't formed, it's not tumah. So therefore, that's the reason they were matire him. So your kasha is not a kasha. Again, we're removing the kasha. It's not suffering and vadai, it's suffering and suffix. It's suffix whether it was left away, suffix or not, but it's a suffix whether it was matar, whether it had the capacity to matam in the first place. That's the first teretz. Says the Gemara, 1 second. How could you say, guys, there was a shaila? How can you say there was a shaila about what? Whether it was mapel or whether it was tummy or not? Here with Nemin gone, Vaday, it was tumah. The only question is, how long? Vaday, it was tumah. What's the shaila? Zacha or nekeva? But Vaday, tumah there is. So what kind of teretz are you giving me that's saying that what? There was maybe no tumah at all? Says no, hachi kamar. Leidim ruachi pila im nefali pila. You wanted to find out if you were mapel of ruach and you're not tamei, or nefal and you are. Im tim saloim and nefali pila. And if you can tell me it wasn't nefal, another was a formed embryo. Leidim zachahum kevahu. So therefore, what? It's not case still suffix for suffix, and it's not a kasha. Suffix for suffix. The boy yasema chasam vaday vadayhu. The same another teretz. It's vaday and vaday. In other words, vaday was what? It was a baby. Vaday was mekar. For hochs kivan the chuldu barlas mitzuyim sham. Vaday girurua. It's not a suffix whether it's going to slap away. Vaday, it's going to slap it away. Animals, vaday. Animals. It's very funny what they do with their food. The only animal that I think, maybe I'm wrong, I have an expert here. They say an ari is doiris and eats in its place. A lion will go ahead and eat in its place. But many other animals, they'll schlep the food away because they're worried about other animals taking their food. A leopard, for example, always takes it up the tree. The leopard always takes it up the tree. The cheetah always loses its food because he can't schlep it up the tree. It's true. The cheetah kills, then you see the lion come and take the cheetah's food, or the hyena. I gave a bone to my granddog. And what did he do? He took it and ran to the other room. He wouldn't like to eat right in front of me. He took it and runs away with it. Like it's built into the beast to go and hide the food. So Vaday is going to schlep the food away. Right? Vaday is going to schlep the food away. So it's Vaday and Vaday. So Baruch Hashem, you had two kashas. Guys, it remains true. Ain't Safik Moitzimi de Vaday. Says Rava. Vaday rode in, took the chametz. Safik, whether he ate it or not. You got to check the house. Why? Ain't suffix mitzvah midei vadai. Your question from Truma and Maisa, it's either suffix and suffix who or vadai and vadai who. Your question from the Nefil and the Bar, it's either suffix and suffix or vadai and vadai who. Held serve, that's it. That's it. Says the Gemara weiter. Big Shmaka Gemara. Keeping the chuldo badus and tum sham vade gerua by yishait and he the shiur mishayar migra mia vade garum. Whether they left over food or not was one thing, but left the way they certainly did by yishait, and that's fine. Back to Gemara. Back to Asugya. Umi amrina and ein choshin shemer geru chuldo. The Mishnah began, right? We began with a rule. If you check, you don't got to worry. If you check, that's it. Checked. You don't have to worry. Ein choshin shemer geru chuldo. But Ketani is seifa. It says in the seifa. On Daf Yud, Mashem Mishayer Yanichenu Bitsina, Shleitzarch Pitika Achro. Now, you check your house, guys, you find chametz, yeah? What are you going to do with it? We're going to burn it tomorrow, correct? We have to put it in a place, Bitsina.
The weasel may come take it.
Right, the weasel's going to come and take it. So you see, why are you putting it Bitsina? So you are chayish for a weasel. The fact that you have to hide it, you see, you are chayish for a weasel. So the Mishnah, Daf Yud is sliced on the head, and Mishnah on Daf Tes. We put it away so the kids shouldn't get it. We put it away so the kids shouldn't get it. We put it high. What I'm saying, but in those days, so you see that what you have to worry about it. Yeah, that's the top of the fridge. I don't think so. Now, says the Gemara, are you not chayish? Shlei tzarech b'dika achro. Rabbi like kasha. Horba. This first teretz is a little funny. Horba abba asa ha b'shleisha asa. There's a difference what day it is, right? B'shleisha asa d'shchiach rifta b'kula bate loy matzna. On the 13th, chametz is muta. So this you don't have to put it away because the weasel knows he can get more. Ba'arba asa d'shchiach rifta b'kula bate matzna. Since Arba Asa in all houses is not found, you got to put it away.
Smart weasel.
There's a calendar.
It's like all the bears come out when the guy goes to his ordinary places and he sees this letter. So all the bears come out whenever all the God in the country.
Okay, so Amish is speaking on the 14th, on the 13th, right? And right. Rava. As you may say a lot of Torah, the Gemara doesn't buy it. Rava, the Chichulda Nevi, it's the Chulda, it's a Navi. Are we dealing with a? I mean, dealing with a Nevi'ah Dikachulda.
She was a Navi.
But she was a Navi. She was a Nevi'ah.
It's a pun.
Yeah, but she chulda Nevi'ah, right. She chulda a Navi. She chulda Nevi'ah, the Yoda, the Idn Arbisa, V'loi Api, Ad L'Orta, U'Mishayara, U'Mitamra. What are you talking about? Elam Rava, Masha Mishaya Nichena B'Tzina, Shematitel Chulda B'Fanenu, Yitzarech B'Dika Achrav. In other words, you're talking not chayish for chulda, but it may. What are you worried about? Worried about maybe it'll take it in front of you, and then you'll see the chulda, and then you have to do a bedika. Tiny kabasi the Rava. A person wants to eat chametz after the bedika. Ketzad yaseh. Masha meshai whatever he has left over. Yanichenu b'tzina. Shleitov chulda v'titel b'fanenu. Yitzarech bedika achrav. So you have that's two terutzim. You have teretz of Abaya, difference in 13 and 14. You have the teretz of Rava that you worry not you're not chayish for chulda. But you worry that the chulda in front of you, you'll see it, and then you'll need a bedika. Because as we said, if you see the chulda ain't suffix mitzvah vada, you're going to have to go ahead and do a bedika. Rav Mari says different teretz gezer shem yanichenu eser v'yimtza tisha. Right? You put away 10, and you end up with 9. You do the bedika, you check how many pieces you have there. Hopefully, you have all 10. Like I usually count the tissues. I put it on like a little paper. And of course, someone blows their nose and throws it in the bag and messes up everything. Anyway, so okay, so that's what you're worried. You're worried about that. What maybe you'll be one short, and therefore it'll be a problem. Okay, the next sugya I'll begin tonight. It really continues to tomorrow. It's a shas sugya. It's a dinner of suffix. It's a dinner of suffix and roiv. When you have a suffix, so one of the ways of going ahead and being mavaris suffix is you go after the majority. You go after roiv. So very, very famous Gemara in Chulin. You have 10 butcher stores in a city, 9 of them sell kosher food, and one of them doesn't. So you find meat in the street. The halacha is kol de pirish, anything that separates, meruba pirish. Where did the suffix arise, guys? The suffix arose not in the store itself. The suffix arose outside the store. Any suffix that arises outside of the store, we have a rule that called the parish, anything that separates, may ruba parish, it separates from the roiv, and you'd be able to eat that meat. Conversely,
So even if it was 6 out of 10?
What?
9 out of 10.
even 6 out of 10, as long as it's roiv.
Doesn't have to be 6.
If, on the other hand, you go to a store and you don't know which store you went to, you went to a store and you don't remember which butcher shop you went to, then we say kol kavua k'mechza mechza. The Torah tells us if the doubt, if the suffix arose in a makom kavua in the store, it's not separate, it's not in the street. You don't know which store you went to. Your suffix is in the store in kavua. Then we say k'mechza mechza 50%, and it will be asa. There's no roiv there. So the roiv is when it separates, and when it's not roiv, when it's kavua, then it's not a it's called kavua when the doubt arises in a makom kavua. K'mechza mechza dami. No, you walked out, you walked in the street, and now, but your suffix, you don't find the meat in the street. You know you took the meat out from the store. So where's the suffix? Not in the street. You don't know which store you went to. And the roiv should say you went to the kosher store. We don't say that then. No, it's very interesting. This is the din of again. Everyone knows the kol de parish, meruba parish. Everyone knows that. The one that's called that with comes from makom kavua, that is not so well known. But that's Gzeres HaKasa. That's Gzeres HaKasa. So we're going to have cases now in chametz that we're going to use that limud to go ahead and paskin us. So let's begin. Teisha tziburin shel matzah. You got 9 piles of matzah. The achet shel chametz, and you have 1 of chametz. For us, the achbar comes along a mouse. The shakel. He walks in. Now he's walking into a house that was checked. So you have your matzah prepared, and you have your chametz to burn. Good. Chametz to burn. It's not speaking about Pesach. We're not by your matzah. We're speaking about bedika. You have to do another bedika on that. So the mouse walks in, right, and he walks out. The question is, did he take what? Did he take chametz or did he take what? Matzah. So now. So teisha tzibur shel matzah v'echad shel chametz v'asa achbar v'shakel v'lo yadinan im matzah shakel chametz shakel hainish teisha chanuyos, right? That's teisha chanuyos, okay? And meaning Rashi hainu teisha chanuyos the kaim lam behu lekamei the chol kavua shenatlam mimakim kavua ein holchem b'yachar roiv el harihi kemechza mechza the suffix yisur l'chumra. You're going to have to do bedika.
Because now it's chametz. Because now it's chametz.
No, because the suffix is from a makom kavua. He went into the house. And you went into the store. You don't know which store you went into. You went into the house. You don't know which pile you took from. That what's the din I told you? Kol kavua kemachza metzah. He's gonna have to check. The roiv is what is matzah. Machnishois. Where did the suffix arise? In a makom kavua. Got it. Good. Now, what about this case? Right. Pirish from the pile. One of the piles separates. It's now in the chutzner. The osa achbar b'shakol comes along a mouse and takes it. Hainu seifa. That's what, guys. That's the case of what? Kol de parish, meruba parish. Now you're going to see the whole thing. Ditnan. It's Tanya. Tisha chanuyos. You have the ksubas in chulin. There you have a shimon. Ksubas chulin nita. Says the word. Tisha chanuyos. 9 chanuyos. 9 stores. Kulan markin basa shtuta. They all sell kosher meat. The achas, and you got another store, Mecheres Bas in the Vela, sells the Vela. The Lokach, see, it's very interesting. It doesn't say Chaza. The Vela, Chaza, you could tell the difference. Chaza, you could tell the difference. Bas in the Vela, you can't tell the difference in the Vela and Shkuta. It's the same, it's meat. So in other words, if it would be Chaza, you can make a diak that then you'd be able to mavar the suffix through the Mitzias, right? So now, you don't know which one. So to the case, if the mouse goes into the house, takes one out, what's the din? Asa, you're gonna have to do a bedika. Uvenimsa, however, if you find it, meaning in the street, then holach achar roiv. Then you're gonna go after the roiv. Why? Because called the parish, meruba parish. And we'll stop over here. Chanay Yimene Kasha Meratza Kodesh Baruch Hu Zakas Es Yisrael. The